An emergency meeting, 2 dismal weekends, and heat from every press outlet there is. It's safe to say Lawson's start to his F1 career at Red Bull hasn't gone the way he would have wanted it to. And to make matters worse, Tsunoda has publicly gone after him and made some shocking statement about the now full-time rookie from New Zealand. So, does Red Bull have any other choice than to switch Tsunoda and Lawson from the next Grand Prix onwards? And what could Tsunoda have said that Lawson is now even hitting back? Him in public? First off, Liam Lawson dismissed Yuki Tsunoda's statement that he is ready to replace him at Red Bull, stating that the Racing Bulls driver can say whatever he wants. Lawson qualified 20th and last for the sprint and main race in China last weekend, after finishing last in the first qualifying round of the season opening Australian Grand Prix. Lawson has had a worse start to his Red Bull career than Daniel Kvyat, Pierre Gasly, Alex Albon, and Sergio Perez, prompting speculation that the team may make a change ahead of the next race in Japan next month. It has been suggested that Tsunoda, who has raced for the Racing Bulls, previously AlphaTauri, junior squad since 2021, would be a strong contender to replace Lawson. So, as Liam Lawson is not having the easiest time at Red Bull Racing, one certain driver believes he is ready for a top-tier ride, and especially the difficult one at Red Bull. That driver? Yuki Tsunoda, the driver who has been waiting for a call from Red Bull for years, and now he has found the perfect opportunity to make this statement no to the whole world. When it came time to promote a Red Bull junior driver to the primary squad for the 2025 Formula 1 season, the team decided that Liam Lawson should replace Sergio Perez rather than Yuki Tsunoda. It was a risky move, because Tsunoda is in his 5th year with the junior team, and Lawson had only 11 Grands Prix. So far, it doesn't appear to be the right choice. Lawson qualified 18th for the season opener in Australia, but crashed in the wet, forcing him to retire on his Red Bull debut. In contrast, Tsunoda qualified 5th, but finished 12th. Tsunoda and Racing Bull's colleague Isaac Hadjar also appeared strong at the Chinese Grand Prix, until the team decided on a 2-pit stop plan. Neither driver was able to climb back into the points as the competition remained out, but Lawson did not fare much better. He finished 12th, out of points, and trailing Hadjar. Rumours have already surfaced that Lawson may be pulled from the team in the near future, and Tsunoda is openly vying for the seat. After the Chinese Grand Prix, Tsunoda was asked if he thought he would perform better in the RB21. He said, "I didn't drive in that, so I don't know the pace difference between me and Max. I didn't feel that way in Abu Dhabi." He acknowledged that, obviously as a driver, always, you expect to drive different as a way to note Lawson's struggles, but that was followed by a statement of intent. "I mean, I'm in good shape, so..." Could Tsunoda outperform Lawson in the Red Bull? There's no way to know unless he takes a shot. And that shot might come as soon his home race next week. What a dream debut would that be, right? As things are standing right now, no decision has been taken on Lawson's immediate future. But with the heat increasing for Lawson and Tsunoda pushing himself forward as a candidate to replace the New Zealander, declaring after qualifying in China that he is 100% ready to step up into Red Bull from the next race since prix. The car is faster, things are taking a turn. All of this has caused for Lawson to step out of his cool and composed nature and talk publicly about his former teammate. He even went so far that speaking after Sunday's race in Shanghai, Lawson cited his outstanding record of competing against Tsunoda in junior categories and Formula 1 as proof that he is better suited to a Red Bull seat. When asked if he was concerned by Tsunoda's statements, he laughed. "Not really. He can honestly say whatever he wants. I've raced him for years, raced him in junior categories and beat him. And I did in F1 as well, so he can say whatever he wants." Lawson's recent words follow his allegation ahead of the Chinese Grand Prix that Tsunoda has had his time after being passed over for a Red Bull seat last winter. When asked if he had any sympathy for Tsunoda ahead of the Chinese Grand Prix weekend, he told The Telegraph, "Honestly, no. You can't in this sport. And anyway, if I look back over our career, I was teammates with him in F3 and I beat him. In Euroformula, I was teammates with him in New Zealand and I beat him there. And then in F1 last season, I think, honestly, if I look at all the times he got promoted instead of me in those early years, then no. He's had his time. Now, it's my time. The question remains open for now. Will Lawson drive in a Red Bull next week? Or will we see the number 22 appear on the Red Bull car for the first time in a real race setting? The idea is not too crazy. It might even give us all an answer to the question if the RB21 really is that difficult to drive. And according to Christian Horner, it is, as he has agreed with Max Verstappen's assessment that Liam Lawson would likely find it easier in the Racing Bulls car than the Red Bull RB21. Verstappen told Dutch Daily de Telegraaf at the Chinese Grand Prix that Lawson would most likely be faster in the Racing Bulls V-Carb 02, which qualified 7th and 9th in Shanghai, with rookie Isaac Hadjar and Yuki Tsunoda. He said, "If you look at the difference between the two drivers at the other teams, they are all closer together. It also shows that our car is extremely tough. I think if you put Liam in the Racing Bulls car, he will go faster. I really think so. That car is easier to drive than ours." I also noticed that when I talked to Liam. Last year, I didn't think the difference between him and Yuki Tsunoda was that big. Otherwise, the team wouldn't make the choice to put him in at Red Bull either. In response to Verstappen's statements, Horner agreed that Lawson would likely find it easier to get up to speed in the Racing Bull, while the RB21 is a little more edgy in comparison. He told media in China, "I think the Racing Bull is a more settled car in terms of it probably is a little more stable on entry. It probably has a bit more understeer in that car and therefore is easier to adapt to, but you can see the difference in pace in the cars on a longer stint. But I think in terms of finding the limit in a car that has inherent understeer, it is always going to be easier than finding the limit in a car that is a little more edgy." And the thing is, Verstappen and Horner are probably right. The Racing Bulls car looks easier to drive, but will switching them really answer a tough question? Who's best for Red Bull in the near future? According to Ralf Schumacher, Yuki Tsunoda will take Liam Lawson's position at the Japanese Grand Prix, saying the driver is already out for the next race. Even if it's not to answer the question who's faster, but to take the heat of the team. Speaking after Saturday's qualifying, the German declared, "You can see that his self-confidence is broken. He says he doesn't have time. That's why I believe that there must have been something behind the scenes. That's hard for such a young man." But 24 hours later, with Lawson unable to recover from his pit lane start, Schumacher claimed the decision was made by Red Bull's executives. "Liam Lawson is already out for the next race. Tsunoda will replace him," he told Sky Sport News. However, he went on to remark that while Helmut Marko may want Lawson out sooner rather than later, Red Bull must understand that any driver up against Max Verstappen in a car that is anything but good requires patience. He feels Red Bull should stick with the New Zealander and focus their efforts on upgrading the RB21. "If the doctor has his way, relatively quickly," he said of Lawson's days with Red Bull. Nevertheless, you have to bear in mind that Red Bull is anything but good at the moment. When you come in as a young new driver and then have to race against the best driver of the current era who has spent years developing the car around him, no matter who I put next to him, he will be sent home within a few races. I would recommend leaving it as it is and making the car better. Sergio Perez was good at the beginning last year because the car was good and bad at the end because the car was simply bad. They are not overwhelmed by the task, but they don't have it under control. It's a concept of further development, and they didn't manage that last year. After all, he does not envision Tsunoda performing any better in the RB21. "If I was Tsunoda's manager, I wouldn't recommend him to go there," he added. At the moment, Racing Bulls is the better car, and Tsunoda is getting on really well with it. He can't do himself any favors with it. Red Bull will meet this week to examine the Lawson situation, with Tsunoda and Isaac Hadjar waiting in the wings for Racing Bulls. This week, there is a meeting in Milton Keynes to discuss when and how we can close the gap, Marko said. Until then, it's about scoring as many points as possible. We are worried, but it is not like we are throwing in the towel. What will they decide? Will they keep Lawson? Or will they put Tsunoda in? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below.